Yeah, I think we can start.
Helen, we can start the session, Helen.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So, good evening, everyone. All of you are present are warmly welcome by BB Careers. I am profoundly delighted to make an opportunity to introduce the guest for the event. Today, we have Mr. Mohammad Aisan Patan. He is an architect and academician based on Ahmedabad. He has been actively involved in the field of architectural practice, academics, and publication for the past 20 years. Since July 2018, he has been teaching as a visiting faculty at SEPT University with interest in areas such as architecture detailing, tectonic, housing, and urban design. Currently, he also serving as an editor for the Archi Diaries, the digital publication platform for the architecture and design. Welcome you, sir. Next, I welcome the senior heads and in charge of all schools. At last, I welcome my dear students and parents. I wish this conference enlighten us all that provide us more knowledge. So without consuming any time, I would like to hand over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction and also inviting me for this particular lecture. The way I understand is that these are students of high school students. Please correct me if I'm wrong, right? Hello. Okay, so I think
Yes, the high school students.
Yes, so we did this session I think last year also, and my dear friend, I think visual artist C.K. Murli had invited me to give a small talk and talk about what is architecture, what is the role of an architect, and basically introduce this profession of architecture and cleared certain doubts that the students might have, and so that the students do get an understanding about the field, and if someone might interested in the joining, they can look forward to it, and if there are any questions they can get back. So I have a small presentation to make, in which I have tried to sort of very simply put forward certain questions that the students might have, and I will, without any delay, straight away start with the presentation by sharing my screen. It's a small presentation that we can go through, and towards the end of it, any student has any question, I will be more than happy to entertain that. So I'm sharing my screen, and is my screen visible? Can someone please confirm?
Yes, sir, it is visible. It is visible.
Okay. So the basic focus on that I want to talk about, what is architecture? Is it an art? Is it a science? Or is it a mix of both? What is the role of an architect in today's time and context? And what are the professional bodies that are associated with it? And how can one sort of get into the profession? That is what we will try and sort of go through. So just a minute. Okay, so basically we are going to go through this 4 broad topics. We'll start with talking about what is architecture, right? We'll try to get a basic understanding of the field as it is. Then what is the role of an architect? Who is an architect? What does he do? How does he or she practice? In the third part, we will be talking about certain future directions that as an architect one can take. How can one, contribute to the society in a positive way? And finally, the institutions, some key institutions, and how to get admissions, and some basic aspects related to that. So let's, without first, any delay, let's get to first of all understand what is architecture, right? So architecture is basically a profession. So let's simply start with this question: is architecture an art or is it a science? Okay, so whenever we visit any historical building, I mean, if you wherever you are staying in the context of our country, there are some fantastic historical and even also the vernacular buildings that are always all around us, right? If you are visiting, let's say if you are staying in Chennai, there are some fantastic temples over there, okay, palaces, stuff like that. And when we do visit this building, right, there's a kind of an experience that we all go through, which makes us, which elevates us, which makes us quiet, which makes us at peace with our own self, right? And that kind of a quality any good work of art has, be it a literature, be it a poetry, be it painting, be it theater, film, whenever music, we do come across such piece of art. It elevates us from our mundane experiences to something that is unexpected, right? So architecture also in that sense is a practice of art, of making spaces, flooding them with light, and creating those spaces in a way that when one visits those spaces, you get an experience that elevates you. Okay, so just like the way a good piece of poetry, music, theater is supposed to elevate a human being, a good piece of architecture also is supposed to do the same. So, in that sense, and it's not just the historical buildings, right? We do visit historical buildings, but there are also some very good contemporary buildings where that are done in a way that they give you the same experience, just like the way we visit any historical building. So the building that I'm showing here is is Indian Institute of Management, IIM Ahmedabad, done by a very famous American architect, Louis Kahn. And if you do get a chance to visit Ahmedabad, please visit this building. It has those qualities that we just talked about. When you go through the kind of spaces, the light, the play of light and shadow, and the spatial experiences that one has, it elevates you from your mundane experiences. So then, can we safely conclude that architecture is a practice of an art, or is it something more than that? So definitely, it is. It is not just art. That's one part of it. Let's come to the other part of the architecture, and that is the science. So I want to talk about, a small, I want to take an example and talk about how architecture, is also a practice of science. So in 2001, we had a terrible earthquake in Gujarat. And in the history of Gujarat, that is still remembered as one of the worst earthquake that have actually happened. The epicenter of the earthquake was in the Kutch region. It was a very devastating. On the 26th January of 2001, we had in the morning that earthquake happened, and it really sort of done a lot of damage, particularly in the Kutch region and also in the Saurashtra and other regions, also in Ahmedabad. Particularly, the region of Kutch was badly affected. A lot of people lost their lives, a lot of people injured, and lots, millions of were left homeless, right? And why did that happen? Let's come back to another example. If you what I'm showing you here are the traditional houses that happen in the same Kutch district, which was the epicenter of the Bhuj. And these traditional houses are called as bhunga, right? These are circular in plan, that the way you can see them photographed. And because the way in which they are constructed, there is a traditional wisdom in here because of the form, the material. None of those bhungas were actually damaged or destroyed, and people where people were able to save their lives. So traditionally, these buildings were not designed by architects, but they were designed by people with a certain kind of a wisdom, with a certain kind of a science and common sense. Okay. And because earthquake did a lot of damage, a lot of people were left homeless, a lot of new houses were required. And when people started constructing those new houses, they turned back to those same vernacular wisdom with which people had constructed their traditional houses. And so there is a science behind it, that if the form of the building is circular, it is done in a way, it will be able to withstand the earthquake in a much better way, which was something that was not taken care by the so-called new concrete houses that were constructed, and that is why they were damaged. And a lot of people actually lost their lives. So there is a science behind it, right? So on one hand, we have the art, which is what we started with, the experience that of elevating you. And on the other hand, there is a knowledge of science that you need, the science of building materials, science of construction, science of structure, mechanics, the building services. A lot of things go into making a good building and a good piece of architecture. So we can safely sort of, conclude that architecture is an art and science of making buildings. Okay. And a good piece of architecture is not just something that looks good, but it is also something that is rational, that is pragmatic, that is strong, that is constructed nicely. And with that comes the entire aspect of the science with it. Okay. So with that definition of the architecture done in place, now let's look at who is an architect, what does he or she do, and what role does he play in today's time and context. Let's say I want to build a house. I have a money, I bought a plot, and now I want to get a very decent house for me and my family. So what do? I am a client now. I go to an architect, say that, look, I have this plot with me. This is the kind of requirement, these many rooms that I have, and please, design a house for me. So the architect, acts as a kind of a pivot, you know. So architect will design the house, and at the same time, he will do a lot of consultation with structural consultant, building services consultant, etc. Finally, architect will give the drawings to the contractors, and the contractors will eventually execute the project. So the client who wanted to get a house did not go directly to the contractor, but he or she came to the architect, and architect plays that role of designing and making drawings and getting the building done for the client. That is what we call as a practice of architecture. Okay, so just like the way there are many professionals, right? So there are lawyers, there are doctors, there are chartered accountants, right? So all these are actually professionals, and all of them have their own practices. So a doctor would have a practice, a lawyer would have a practice, a chartered accountant would have a practice. Just in the same way, an architect has a practice. It is called architectural practice. He or she would run an office. Depending upon how successful you are, the office can grow, and there is no limit to how much it can grow. Okay, there could be a small office with, let's say, 6, 7, 8 people, all the way up to there are architectural offices which are spread in many continents. So in nutshell, that is what the practice of architecture is all about. So let's go through quickly a design process, or how would an architect, what all things will be involved in designing a building. So the client came to the architect, said, I want to design a house. So the architect would sort of get in all the requirements, how many rooms you want, what is the site, what is the direction, what is the climate, and the architect would start designing the houses. So initially it will start with these kind of conceptual sketches. Okay, so these conceptual sketches, the architect is trying to take care of all these diverse, conflicting, and various requirements and trying to come up with an idea which can be developed into a house. And a lot of lateral thinking at this particular point would be required because there are conflicting requirements. On one hand, the client has a requirement of certain areas, the climate, the site. There are a lot of things that are going on, and the architect brings all these things on table and starts designing the house with these kind of conceptual sketches which start consolidating into some kind of an architectural form, some kind of an architectural idea. Okay, so slowly from that conceptual, very sketchy kind of a thing, the building starts taking shape. Architect starts giving dimension to the spaces, heights, etc. And there is a lot of tools that are involved here. So many architects, most of them use a lot of model making tools. So there are physical models, and now we also have digital models, softwares available to make. So these are what you see is probably a process model, maybe starting from a very conceptual one, and it evolved into some kind of a final form, right? So a lot of models are made, not just the physical. What you are seeing here is a software model done using a digital tool. So there are softwares available in which you can simulate, you can create models, you can do analysis. All kinds of analysis can be performed as to how this form or a building will perform. So a lot of model making is involved. Finally, after the design is done, then comes the part of the representation. So the architect would present that building in the form of drawings. Okay, these drawings would be in the form of plans, sections, elevations, and models. And so for example, in this case, this particular elevation is the building was designed by an architect. He drew this elevation and it has been fit into the context, right? So architects use a lot of drawings techniques with hand, with softwares to communicate the building that they have designed. So in this particular case, the architect was designing this building and is trying to show how this building fits into that landscape of the street in which the building is part of. Lot of tools and representation techniques are taught to students in architecture colleges, monochrome, etc. Now you also have softwares in which renderings are done. And essentially what the architects are trying to do is trying to communicate to the client that, look, this is how the building will be. This is how the various spaces will be. This is how you will be using various spaces. This is how the light will come from. And they basically form as a communication sort of a tool for the client, for the people. And so this is what we call as a representation. So you represent various aspects of an architectural project through plans, through sectional perspectives. And so in this case, the architect is trying to show how the building actually fits into this particular harbor. And so we're trying to communicate this is an axonometric view showing how this particular building that was designed by the architect fits into that particular neighborhood. So that is part of the representation. And these are models. So this is a physical model. This is perhaps a digital model. So through drawings and through models, you are trying to communicate your design to the client, who is eventually going to approve. And once the client has sort of approved that, okay, fine, this is what I'm looking for, this satisfies my requirements, I like the kind of spaces that are there. And once that has happened, then the role of the architect switches. So now he has to make a lot of drawings, a lot of technical drawings, which is normally called as construction drawings or working drawings. And these drawings will be, so the entire project will be broken in a kind of a thick set of drawings in which dimensions will be given, materials will be specified, levels will be given. And the entire project goes as a kind of a thick set of a drawing, which will be then given to the contractor, various contractors, who will then execute the project on the basis of the drawing that has been issued by the architect. So as you can see here, this particular drawing was issued by an architect, and this construction drawing is a very important document. Just like the way a prescription stands for a doctor, a construction drawing stands for an architect. If something wrongly specified in a construction drawing, if it gets executed, the client has a right to take an objection, and the architect can be sued on the basis of that. So that is why it is a professional practice, and a great care must be is normally taken when preparing a set of construction drawings. So the architect would come up with these construction drawings, hand it over to the contractor. The contractor would construct those they will read those same set of drawings and eventually construct it with the drawings that they have in hand. And at this particular point, the architects do need to make a lot of site visits. So in terms of selection of the material, to check whether the construction is happening as per the drawings, as per the specifications, etc. The quality of the construction, is it up to the mark or not? So architects have to do make a lot of site visits when the construction is happening, going on. So that is basically the process of how a project would be conceived from the conceptual sketch up to the point when it will be constructed and finally handed over to the client. This entire process is what is normally will be repeated for every single project that comes to an architectural practice, comes to an architectural office. Okay, so this is exactly what I was talking about. So the doctors, lawyers, chartered accountants, just like the way they have a practice, architects do have a practice, and it is also normally many times called as architectural consultancy. Okay, so clients are the people who have the money, who have the land, who want to build something. They normally come to the architects, and there will be a contract will be signed between the client and an architect, in which all the responsibilities of the architect would be stated, and that document, on the basis of that, the architect would design and get the building executed. So each of this profession, like the doctors, lawyers, chartered accountants, have their own professional bodies which regulate that particular profession. So like when we talk about the doctors, they have National Medical Council, Medical Council of India, and every, I'm supposed to register myself if I'm a doctor. So if I'm a lawyer, I'm supposed to register myself with the Bar Council of India. If I'm a chartered accountant, they also have an Institute of Chartered Accountant wherein I'm supposed to register, and I get a license to practice either as a lawyer or either as a chartered accountant, or even as a pharmacist. There's a Pharmacy Council of India. Same way with the architects, there is something called as Council of Architecture. So Council of Architecture is the regulatory body in India, and every country has a regulating similar body which regulates where the architects are supposed to register. I get a license to practice as an architect, and only those who get a license to practice as an architect can have an architectural practice, right? An architectural office. So in the Parliament of India in 1972, an Architects Act was passed, and on the basis of that, the Council of Architecture was formed, which is the regulatory body that regulates all the education and also the professional aspects. And it is the same body that also conducts NATA. NATA is basically the common entrance exam that you need to give if you want to get admission in any architectural college in India. Okay, so now that was about the practice part of it. Who is an architect and what does it do? Let's come back to how can an architect make an impact in the society? So there is something called as a Pritzker Architecture Prize, and that Pritzker Architecture Prize is almost equivalent of a Nobel Prize in architecture. It's an international prize that is awarded to an architect who has achieved excellence at international level. Okay, and Balkrishna Doshi is a practicing architect in Ahmedabad. Is the only Indian who has got the Pritzker Prize. He was awarded the Pritzker Prize in 2018. Not only that, he's Padma Shri and I think now Padma Bhushan also. And he has this is the office. It's called, his practice is called as Sangat Vastushilp Foundation. It's in Ahmedabad. This is his office building from where he practices, and he has done lot of contribution in also in the field of low cost housing in India. Housing is a very big issue when it comes to our country. You know, there are a lot of homeless people, and as an architect you can make a great deal of contribution. And BV Doshi's, for example, this particular project that I'm showing you, Aranya housing, is a very famous housing project that was also awarded the Aga Khan Architecture Award. And Professor BV Doshi has done a lot of housing projects. Along with, there are some very good architects. I think late Charles Korea, Raj Rewal. There are others also who have done remarkable work when it comes to affordable housing in India. So you can make a great deal of contribution. And he is not just done a practice, but Balkrishna Doshi was also the founder of School of Architecture, Ahmedabad, in 1962. It's been more than 60 years now, and now it's a full-fledged CEPT university in Ahmedabad, which is where I studied from, and one of the most renowned universities and places to study architecture in our country, not just nationally, but also internationally. It is a recognized a place where we can study not just architecture, but many disciplines like interior design, urban design, planning, furniture. A lot of courses are offered at the bachelor's, master's level. So PV Doshi was the one of the founders of this particular school, which is now a full-fledged university. So it's not just the men's arena. It's not just the men's forte. You know, the same Pritzker Prize was awarded in 2020 to these fantastic architects from Ireland. They are Irish architects, two ladies, Yvonne Farrell and Shelley McNamara. And these two ladies were awarded the Pritzker Prize for their remarkable projects that they have done and for their architectural practice. So the women are also making a lot of contribution to this field. And gone are those days when it was only an architect's forte. A lot of women are making amazing contribution to the field of architecture. Okay, so now what is there in future? You know, where is this field going? What directions are emerging? I'll just give you a glimpses as a students in high school architecture. A lot of technological, you know, breakthroughs are coming up, particularly with parametric architecture. So with the coming up with the digital tools of fabrication, CNC, you know, 3D printing, the entire construction, the practice of architecture and design is opening up the possibilities which were earlier perhaps not imaginable, not constructible. So with the parametric architecture and computer assisted manufacturing, now there's a whole new world that is opened up, which is called as parametric architecture and also parametric design. So this is where a lot of people are trying to explore with various forms and a lot of things where we take computer not just as a you know, as a, but computer also as a design tool. So a lot of interesting forms inspired from nature, which earlier were not possible to imagine, to construct. With the help of parametric tools and digital tools, you are able to imagine them and also construct them. So this is a new direction in which, you know, the field of architecture and design is also moving into. And also there is you know, the artificial intelligence, the way is also coming into the field of architecture. The smart materials, the lot of technological breakthroughs. For example, the building that I'm showing you are two twin towers in, I think, somewhere in UAE. And what I want to talk about is the skin. What you see, these, you know, these triangular facade is actually is trying to simulate a lot of natural sort of a flowers, that blossom. So it's a kind of a smart skin that, folds, that opens and closes in depending upon the time of the year, the time of the day, and how much light you want to bring in. So there is a whole computer programming that goes behind this to make this happen. The whole sensors and actuators together with the computer programming that comes in, and of course the making which makes it. So you can see some of them are closed and some of them are open. It's not happening randomly. These ones are closed because because of the movement, maybe it's facing here, so they are closed. And once the sun starts moving in here, because of the sensors and actuators, some of them will start closing in and some of them will start opening in. So this is how the architects and engineers are trying to simulate the nature and trying to make the buildings using smart technologies. So this is what a very interesting example of what possibilities are there at the junction of technology and architecture. So that was one extreme. You can also make a great deal of contribution by going into a development field. So I want to give an example of a very famous architect called Laurie Baker. Some of you might have come across his work. He was an architect. He practiced in Kerala for many, many years, and he evolved a kind of a construction technology and an architectural style that could be afforded by a common man. And he did some fantastic architectural buildings in Kerala and also elsewhere in India. And he was one of the pioneers when it came to a low-cost housing, affordable housing. So and he's also, proclaimed as a Gandhi of architecture. If you are interested in making a contribution, a positive contribution to the development field, you can also get into a lot of sustainable practices that is now many architects and many organizations across the India are doing. So Hunarshala is one such organization in Gujarat that is also doing. There are also many practices. If you have visited Auroville, is another center where a lot of such sustainable and affordable explorations have been going on for many, many years. So one can also make a great deal of contribution to the society as an architect by engaging into environmental issues, climatic issues, and social responsibility. So this is one of the Laurie Baker's project in Kerala, where he designed the affordable housing project. This was a slum rehabilitation project that he designed, and it was built in, I think this is in Trivandrum. Okay, so I just hope that I have given you a good range of, starting with what is architecture, who is an architect, what are the directions, possibilities, and mind you, there are many directions and many possibilities. What I've just showed you are few possibilities. So now, how to get admissions? What are the institutions, right? So some of the institutions I've already talked about: Faculty School of Architecture, which is now called as Faculty of Architecture, CEFT University Ahmedabad, one of the pioneering institutes, and still where you have undergraduate and postgraduate courses are being offered for architecture, interior design, and many other urban design allied disciplines. JJ College of Architecture Mumbai is also another prominent place. School of Planning and Architecture Delhi, SPA Delhi is is also another very prominent. Now it's a deemed university, and they also offer a lot of courses at bachelor's and master's level for architects. And if you are interested in getting into any of these, and there are not just these three, I've just showed you the three. There are in total, I think, more than now 500 colleges all over India. And in Chennai, I think in Tamil Nadu itself, I think now maximum number of architectural colleges are there. So if you are interested in getting any one of those bachelor's courses, there you have to give National Aptitude Test in Architecture. It's called NATA. Okay, it's conducted by Council of Architecture, and it's a national level test. And usually the test, you will be required to drawings and your aptitudes, creativity, etc. There's no age limit. You got to have 10+2 clear. physics, chemistry, mathematics are again compulsory now. The candidate should have 10 plus 2 from, I think, any of the local board or the CBSE or those boards. I think 50% marks, etc. All of this you can go to the Council of Architecture website, and you will be able to get all the information. And also, if you have done diploma, so a lot of people do diploma after 10th, so you are also qualified to give NATA and get admission in bachelor's after doing the 10 plus 3 diploma, but you got to have mathematics as compulsory. Usually they test your drawing and observation skills, proportion, creativity. All of things are, you can go in for the detailed sample papers, etc. You can visit the Council of Architecture website. I think you will find almost all those details over there. So now we talked about the future direction, etc. But just like any other field, just like the way when we have doctors, so we have MBBS, right? That is the bachelor's, and then after those bachelors, a lot of either you specialize in, somebody specializes in medicine, somebody would specialize in surgery, someone might specialize in ENT, and so on and so forth, right? So for that you need to do masters in if you are a doctor, right? Similarly, in this particular field, usually the bachelor's courses are 5 years courses, right? And after the bachelor's courses you can do masters, and there are many options, and you can specialize in any one of them. So you can specialize in a masters in architecture, you can specialize in masters in history and theory if you are interested in research and teaching. There is masters in heritage conservation. There are a lot of interesting historically important buildings which are in decaying condition, so they also need a lot of conservation efforts. You can specialize in that. You can specialize in urban design if you are interested in large scale projects at the city level. Landscape design deals with the design of the ground, the spaces between the buildings. So that is another masters in design. If you are interested in furniture design, interior design, that is for the masters. Urban and regional planning deals with city planning, environmental planning, those kind of thing, urban housing. So there are, and this is the list is actually quite big. You can you visit at either the CEPT website or any other such big universities, and you will be able to understand what all options you can have. And depending upon your inclination, you can specialize also by doing masters in any of the field, and you can make your careers out of that. And it doesn't stop there. You can also do a PhD after the masters if you're interested in research and pursuing the teaching career in teaching also. So the option of doing a PhD is also available in CEPT and also many other places. So sky is the limit, I think. And this, the field is very interesting. If you have creativity, if you are a good lateral thinking, if you are a daydreamer, and this field is for you. It's fun to be an architect. Okay, thank you. I hope I have sort of not confused you, and I have clarified the doubts and like that. So with that, any questions any students would have, I will be more than happy to answer.
Students, do we have any questions? You can post the questions in this chat section so that sir will answer your questions.
So was it would choosing, sorry, just let me go through the chat section. Somebody's trying to, would choosing NIT and IIT for architecture? There's a question, would choosing NIT and IIT for architecture is a good choice? So a lot of architecture courses are offered at NIT also. For example, NIT Trichy has a good architecture college. IIT is also, for example, IIT Kharagpur is a very good architecture college that I know of. But it's not a blanket so when it comes to engineering, okay, I can say that, okay, IITs are the best institutions, right? Definitely. But when it comes to architecture, that's not necessarily the case. There are so a lot of good colleges. There's few that I mentioned, like SPA Delhi is good, CEPT University is good. SPA is many places. For example, a School of Planning and Architecture is there in Bhopal also. There is SPA Bhopal, SPA Delhi, SPA, there's some in South also. So a lot of good courses are there. So it's not necessary that all the core architectural courses that are offered at NIT and IIT are good because all the engineering courses offer. That's not, it's not a blanket case. You must do your research, study, and then come to the conclusion. So I don't want to make any conclusion that this particular college is good and this particular college is bad. Do your homework. And there are many good, like for example, NIT Trichy is good. As I said, IIT Kharagpur. There might be other good colleges also in NIT Trichy. Kindly explain about JEE paper 2B planning. No, I'm sorry, I'm not the right person for that. What kind of things is done during pursuit? Okay, this is an interesting question. What kind of things are done during the architecture course? So we said that, architecture is art and science, right? So you need, students will be taught both these things. Okay. So usually in architecture colleges, the core subject that we have are called as design studios. So starting from first year all the way up to the final year, you will be given a design project, and there will be tutors, there will be faculties who will help you, who will give you a program, who will give you a site, and they will teach you how to design. So that is what is called as a design studios, and there are a set of theory subjects around it to teach you all those the courses. So there will be courses on building construction, there will be courses on structures, some courses on arts and humanities, history. There's the courses on climatology, environmental science, right? And there will be usually some set of electives also. So you can, also parallelly pursue something that is completely off the beat. So usually at the core of it, what we have is called as design studios, and then you have a set of subjects around it. And starting from the first year all the way up to the fifth year, it goes on becoming complex, right? So initially in the first year, they will teach you small, give you small projects. And then in the second year, third year, fourth year onwards, goes on becoming more and more complex. So that is usually what architecture you will be taught in architecture colleges. Is there separate entrance test for design courses in CEPT? I think so. I think for architecture you have NATA, but for other courses there are entrance tests. I think you should please check with the CEPT University website. I'm not aware of the JEE. Please. Good evening, sir. Will architects be replaced by artificial intelligence? Oh, that's a big debate. I think it's a separate lecture, and we can go on debating that. I personally believe that architects will never be replaced by artificial intelligence, because human beings are very complex, and human mind particularly is a very complex organism. The amount of intelligence that is fit in our brain, and the kind of things that as human beings we are capable of doing, I don't think any machine would be able to do that. Having said that, I would say that there are certain things can only be done by artificial intelligence well. So I would say that architects or designers or any other you take profession, artificial intelligence will help you as a technology to move further, but it will never completely replace the human beings. It might, kick some jobs here and there, but it will never be able to replace architects or doctors or lawyers or professionals. What kind of practice? Sir, tell me more about NATA. For the NATA, please visit the Council of Architecture website. You can do coa.gov.in. I think So you can check that out. So just good architecture college in Tamil Nadu other than School of Architecture and Planning, SAP. Sorry, I'm bad at it. Uh, mm, I don't think I think I would refrain from suggesting one particular institute versus the other one. The whole idea of this lecture is not about that. I think you will have to do a lot of research on your own and talk to. I mean, if you are interested in a particular college, the best thing is to go visit, talk to some of the students. Good. Architecture have better life in future? It all depends on what you do after getting out. How do you, yes, a lot of architects do have good life, but there is nothing, that comes easy. I mean, there is a lot of, whatever the field that you choose, if you put in your 100%, if you enjoy at the end of the day what you're doing, you can always make a good life out of it. What will be the best masters to do in architecture field? It depends from people to people, what inclination I have. So, if I'm interested in historical buildings, I might go towards conservation and, that part. If I'm interested in large scale projects, I might get into urban design or planning. If I'm interested in small scale, little things, I might go into furniture design, building product design. So it all depends on what no five fingers are same. We are not, we are all different people. So all of us have different likings, just like the way you will find out once you do an architecture bachelor's course. Over the period of time, you will, have an inclination that yes, I like landscape design, I like urban design, etc. What is the difference between architecture and urban planning in masters? Architecture, as I said, deals with the design and construction of buildings. Urban planning deals with the cities and planning, cities, regional planning, environmental planning, large scale planning. Okay, so these two are different fields in that sense. For NATA, do we need to learn or any other things course during 11th? Well, I think for the NATA, you just, as I said, visit the council website. That would be good. Good, I think with that, if there are no questions, I heard architecture school is hard. What will be your advice? Well, if you want to pursue anything seriously, it's always hard, but it's fun, I am an architect. I studied from School of Architecture, CEPT University, the photograph that I showed you. At the end of the day, it's enjoyable. And if you are a creative person, if you like to be on the creative side, then you will enjoy. And as long as you enjoy anything, you can always, find sail through, So yes, it's hard, and there are a lot of times you have to work, just like the way any professional, good professional course is hard. I mean, to do medicine, to do, even to study lawyers or chartered accountant, you need to put in a lot of hard work, and same applies for architecture colleges also. So there is no easy way out for in life. I'm not good at maths, will I be able to do it? Yes, you can. You don't need to be an Einstein or stuff like that. Yes, there is some amount of mathematics, some amount, as I said, the science involved in it, but it's not that you need to be a pro. I mean, if you are more in architects, as architects, let's say we do preliminary calculations, we go by thumb rules and stuff like that. We never so the amount of mathematics that is involved, I think if you have cleared your 12th science, should not be a problem. What kind of preparation should we take from now to be good in architecture field? I think it's a creative field. A lot of drawing, sketching, visit good historical buildings, keep a sketchbook, make sketches, and it's about observation, about sketching, about being creative, aptitude, a lot of things which are already mentioned in those you can find on the, I think, the Council of Architecture NATA website for the entrance test. So those kind of stuff, if you enjoy doing that, you will be good. Okay. Can an architect become a businessman? Yes, why not? I mean, uh, see, as I said, you can, a lot of architects are already into business, to be honest, and the kind of master's courses that I showed you, I mean, you are also eligible for, let's say, doing an MBA. Okay, a lot of architects have gone ahead and done that. A lot of architects have actually gone ahead and also joined given the UPSC exams and now serving as an IAS officers, as IPS officers, as IFS officers. In fact, one of my batchmate is an IFS officer. She's actually an Indian ambassador, India's ambassador in Hong Kong. She is, I think, right now. So there's no, limit to what you can do. And you can be, a lot of architects are getting into real estate and stuff like that. So if your inclination is toward business, you will find that out. And there are ways in which you can get into that also. Can you an example question for NATA? No, sir, I'm not the right. Please do visit the website. What is the average salary package for an architect? Okay, that's a very good question. It depends on the size of the office that you are joining. And if you have only done bachelor's, yes, the kind of a pay that you get is not at par with normally, what you will be getting in the other fields. So it depends a lot on the kind of office that you are joining, kind of cities that you are joining. Initially, it will be difficult for you to make the ends meet. But normally what people do is they gain some experience by working in an office and then they start their own practice. Once you start your own practice, there's no limit to how much you can make. Yes. Which college is best for architecture in Tamil Nadu? Sorry, as I said, I think I would refrain from doing that because I don't think I know all the colleges in Tamil Nadu. I only know one or two. So I don't think I'm the right person, and I don't want to get into that kind of a certification, which is good and which is bad. I just gave few examples because that the example that I know. For the Tamil Nadu thing, please do your own research. And as I said, go to the college, talk to the students, see what they are doing, and you will find out which colleges are good. Can architects make this world a better place to live? Anybody who has, that kind of a faith that I can make this world a better place to live, they can. And architects can make this world a better place in many, many ways. I already showed you two examples from India, right? B.V. Doshi, Laurie Baker, and these are just two examples I give you. There are lots of architects who are doing wonderful work out there, and they are making, and when you make a good building, you are making an impact on people's lives who are actually going to stay there for the rest of their life. And in that sense, you can make a great contribution, and you can make this world. Surely, I think architects are in a very good position to make this world a better place to live. Can you share about your first experience in architecture? I did not get the question. First experience as in what? BArch students can have chances to go in all designing field. Yes, as I said, after doing bachelor's in architecture, you can do masters in many, many fields. So there is no limitation. Can architects work in film industry? Yes, a lot of them do. In fact, one of my batchmate is currently working in Bollywood. What is important to become, and what is important? I did not understand the question, sorry. Vasuki Balaji, if you can. Okay. Can we close this session now? Anyone?
Yes, sir. Students, I'll give you the form later. You can ask your questions in that form. I'll pass it on to sir later on. Sir,
Yes.
thank you for spending your time and giving us an experienced form of how architecture works. So it actually freshes up our mind and it motivates us mostly to become architects in future. So I would
Yes.
like to thank in behalf of all the students for spending your valuable time with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. See, I'll leave then. Thank you and wish you all the best.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.